In this video, we are going to be talking about the 1947 film noir Out of the Past, which was directed by Jacques Tourneur and starred Robert Mitchum, Jane Greer, and Kirk Douglas. And we are going to be discussing why this is considered one of the best film noirs of all time. My guest today, I would like to welcome back Aaron Pynn, who is a film YouTuber. He has a YouTube channel himself. Aaron, thanks again for joining me this week.
It's a blast. I mean, this is our second 1947 film noir. It's a good year for film noir.
It was right after the war. It certainly had a lot of great noirs, particularly in the mid to late 40s. So before we jump into discussing this film, Out of the Past, for fun, I just want to throw some noir questions at you that I asked some of my guests. So my first one is, which femme fatale would you kill for? So I got out of these five actresses: Gloria Graham, Jane Greer, Veronica Lake, Ava Gardner, or Claire Trevor?
That's hard. I mean, I gotta go with I'm gonna go with Ava Gardner, but Veronica Lake is between Ava Gardner and Veronica Lake.
Yeah, that's the best. Whoever one would kill for, it's always a tough choice because so many of them were so gorgeous and so great at being femme fatales. Okay, now a round of noir or not. The Lost Weekend. This is one that's always widely discussed.
I mean, I don't really think so. With Ray Milland, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people would consider it just because of the aspect that it is like a downward spiral and depressing. But I don't know. I'm going to go no.
No.
I'm going to go different.
And I think we touched on this last week, but Sweet Smell of Success.
Yeah.
That one's a yes. Okay, great. Best noir detective: Mitchum, Bogart, Dana Andrews, Glenn Ford, or Ralph Meeker? Who would you go with?
Well, Meeker is in my favorite because because Kiss Me Deadly is my favorite.
Yeah.
But Mitchum is the most real. If there's any one of these guys that actually would want to have my back, it's Mitchum. It's Robert Mitchum.
Yeah, that's a good choice. You could trust him. The honest one, like we saw in Out of the Past. And lastly, out of these five, what is your favorite neo-noirs? So I wrote down Drive from 2011 with Ryan Gosling, The Long Goodbye, Night Moves, LA Confidential, or To Live and Die in LA?
Live and Die in LA is one of my favorite movies of all time. So that's 100%. Yeah,
that's such a good movie. I have to revisit that. Okay, great. So let's jump into this film, which is, often considered one of the greatest film noirs of all time. It's hard to find a poll that this film is not at least in the top 5. So why do you think this is considered one of the best noirs?
Well, aside from having all the tropes of what a noir has and become known for, it has Mitchum probably at his best. This is early Mitchum. This is early Kirk Douglas. This is not when they've been into it for a long period of time. And these guys did not get along well.
I didn't know that. They didn't, on that film?
Totally different acting styles. Mitchum thinks of acting. You'll probably actually like this because you are an actor. He thinks of acting as something that you naturally do. You act. That's what you do. As Mitchum would put it, one of the biggest actors of his time was Rin Tin Tin. And if Rin Tin Tin could do it, he could do it. Kirk Douglas was a method actor, and Mitchum hated that. And the fact that Kirk Douglas, because he was a method actor, was not nice to people on set. so Mitchum was one of those pals with everybody.
Yeah.
So because of that, initially at least they didn't get along during the filming. Because Kirk Douglas would try to do, Mitchum is laid back. It's just the way he is. It's his character. It's in his DNA. And Kirk Douglas would try to play laid back, and he would try to be more laid back than Mitchum. And that's really, you can tell when you're watching the film.
Yeah.
But This one here, it just like has every trope, and not only that, It does a neat little thing in that the author of the book, what's it called again? Build My Gallows High is the name of the original story it's based on.
Right.
He actually worked on the script for this movie. And another reason that I chose this, by the way, because it has Jane Greer, and the last one we did started with the killing of Lori Palmer and of course Lori Palmer's from Twin Peaks, and Jane Greer also, by the way, was in Twin Peaks, so there again is a Twin Peaks connection.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
But no, this is one of the greats, and the way that it does things, like outside of the norm, it's not linear. A lot of it is told in flashback.
Yeah.
So we have to depend on the reliability of the narrator. And unlike some films, like say like a High Tension or something, where you've got an unreliable narrator, it is established pretty clear and strong that Robert Mitchum is a reliable narrator. So when we hear things, we hear, the whole story. And of course, this movie was one of the few that would get remade later on in 1984, become Against All Odds with Jeff Bridges and James Woods.
Oh, I didn't even know that. So this has been remade. Okay.
There's differences, because Rachel Ward plays the Jane Greer part in Against All Odds. Yeah. And and instead of being just a detective, like Jeff Bridges is an ex-football player that takes on this case from James Woods, who's again like Kirk Douglas is this kind of this slimy guy about this girl that has taken money from him and ends up going with her, and whereas they go to I can't remember, is it San Francisco in the past, and Against All Odds they go to Chichen Itza. So it's
okay. Yeah, I've heard of that one, but I didn't really realize it was a remake. But just since you mentioned the plot, for anyone who hasn't seen it, this is the plot. According to IMDb, a private eye escapes his past to run a gas station in a small town, but his past catches up with him. Now he must return to the big city, world of danger, corruption, double crosses, and duplicitous games. I like that. Yeah, I mean, that's it in a nutshell. I've seen this twice. So this was my second time. I liked it more than I remember, and I saw it quite a few years ago. And there's a lot I admire about it, but I'm surprised it is often hailed as one of the best noirs. I'm not so sure if I put it in the top 5, mainly because and maybe you can clear up why this might be, but I find it's so plot heavy that the plot almost, especially in the middle, it starts to get confusing with the tax evasion part. And I don't know, did you ever find anything with the plot confusing? I had to pause it a couple of times to kind of go back.
It's kind of supposed to be though, for this film here.
Yeah.
I would put it in the top 3 for me when it comes to noir, because we get Jacques Tourneur, who's this fantastic director, has done a lot of Luton stuff, and he's brought in the cameraman that worked on Cat People, which is such a beautiful shot film, also remade in 1984.
Right. So, Paul Schrader did the remake. Yeah.
Exactly. To do this film, and you can tell because it is so well shot, and it's such a fatalist film. There's no point in this film where you ever think or ever believe that anything's going to happen to Mitchum, except he is not going to make it. It is stamped out right from that is his lot in life. Is he knows when he goes off with Anne, when he's telling her the story, he knows he's not going to end up with Anne. He knows he's not going to get the girl. Richard Webb's character is more than likely that's we said. Well, I've known Richard Webb, of course, is the kind of the thankless role, the nice guy, and I've known this girl since I've been helped her with her roller skates back when we were kids.
Right.
But so it's a fatalist. He's Mitchum says, all I want to do is not die before you do. And once he takes that case, it's his life is gone. There's no chance.
Is that why you think Mitchum? I mean, he played it in a way which not that I didn't like it, but almost like he was accepting everything that came to him, so indifferent to everything, as if he was so resourceful, knowing that he was going to get framed, for example, being very, very fast to cover that up in order to get what he wanted from Kirk Douglas, I mean, we'll be here forever to go over the thick plot, but I'm sure you know what I mean in terms of he just seemed to be so accepting of everyone. So did you ever read anything, or do you think that was intentional for him to play it that way?
It was completely intentional. This was his lot in life, and Mitchum's character, knowing that, that's why when he goes does the gas station, that's why when he does everything else, he can't, like, there's no sense of like super, like, I don't want to say urgency, but he's never really concerned.
He's not.
He's accepted his fate from early on. Once he decides to stay with the girl, and as it unfolds, and we find it, like, yes, Kirk Douglas is a bad guy, but not as bad as Jane Greer. He knows, and like he knows that they're tied, and she's not the type of woman that is going to lift you up. He never believes her. Like he pretends to believe, like, as she changes alliances when she needed to, from him to Kirk Douglas, he pretends to go along with it. But I think as soon as she killed his partner, the detective, I think right there, that's when he knew she could not be trusted and his life would never be the same. I wonder if there could have been a moment of something, seeing him sort of know that, his days are numbered. I imagine perhaps they wanted to stick with that kind of hard-boiled, tough detective who just is not afraid of anything. I don't know. I mean, is that something that perhaps you ever thought of? Well, you do, but I think Mitchum plays it a little bit like deeper than that, because it's not so much that he's just hard-boiled. There's layers to the character, and that's, I think, one of the things that makes this one stand out. You can watch Out of the Past like today, or you can watch it like back in the day, and it still stands up. It still works. Not every film like does that. Like the 1984 remake of it takes a different turn with the end of the film, and it's a great film. And Take a Look at Me Now, it's a fantastic song by Phil Collins, but it doesn't stand. It's good, but it doesn't stand up as well as the film that it remade.
When you say layered, what did you see other than his sort of accepting of the coolness and the sort of indifference to everything? Is there something else you felt he brought to it?
Well, the thing that I think some people get wrong with a lot of noirs, and this is just my opinion, is that a lot of the, whether it's often it's the male lead that goes down, but they're inherently good. They're not like bad people, and they're good people, and that's the reason that this happens. Like Mitchum's character is a good guy. He's a trusting guy. He knows he's he may be rougher on the edges, but that a lot of that comes from, well, Mitchum as a person, like, started, like, went out on his own from his family when he was 12 years old. They started working on it, went back to his family for a little bit, realized, he had to work again. So he was back out running the rails, making money, sending money home to his family. Mitchum was a self-sufficient guy from very early on. A noir guy or girl, a lot of cases, depending on who the focus is normally on. They always say, well, they're bad on the inside, they're tragic because they're wrong. Like when Lawrence Tierney is in Born to Kill, when we talked about that one, he's bad. He's bad to the bone. But that's almost like a misnomer when it comes to kind of an oddity when it comes to a lot of these films, because a lot of these films started with people that have nothing but good intentions. Even like Double Indemnity, which is often lauded right up there with the past, one of the great film noirs of all time. There's still that sense of, like, they gain that hardness, like Mitchum, even to the point he's got that hardness there, but he's softer and he's kinder. And I think because of that when Jane Greer walks into his life, he quickly realizes that there's no way back. So he doesn't believe by the time, like, even after he's gone from Jane Greer, when he meets Anne and he's got the gas station, he doesn't believe, to him, there's like, oh, I can't marry Anne and have a happy ending. That's not in my cards. Once he got tied up in this, to him this was his downfall. This was the loss of his innocence. This was the loss of like the, I guess, of the better aspect of him, the kinder, gentler side of him. It was a loss. It was a bit of a death. So he knew that eventually this was going to be the thing that would cause his downfall.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly is. It makes it interesting to see an actor and play it that way, and also sort of have the character crafted that way. And you're right that often, as far back as, well, this is 47, but like Detour, for example, like the lead character, it's just bad coincidences or one too many mistakes, but inherently good. Mitchum is, you're right, he's a good guy. He just he gets caught up in his romantic feelings for this woman that he's crazy about, and then he starts to do the wrong thing. Like he lies to his client that he couldn't find her. He tries to take off with her and not even tell Kirk Douglas anything, even though he had been hired by him, which really went against his code of ethics. So we see, it even reminds me of something like Woman in the Window, like people who are, and Edward Robertson, he's a good guy until he's perhaps forced to either be totally honest and face the consequences, or try to cover up something he did that was wrong, and I think that applies really here to this character. But you're right, in something like Born to Kill, those are the ones I prefer, where you can't tell who's good and who's bad. Everyone's bad. There's no black and white. There's only grays and blacks and whites and so many other colors. It's even like In a Lonely Place, I think, another real kind of more psychological complex character study. But I really like the simplicity of the sort of quintessential noirs like this movie. And what I really admired about it off the top is, it seems like it's going to be a movie about some people in a small town. And as soon as you see the guy pull up, who's clearly a fish, not someone who lives there, belongs there, with his fedora and his suit and tie. And it's so dangerous when he tries to get the deaf boy's attention that he throws the match at him. I mean, right there, it's just that one little detail, that one gesture, that this is trouble, that this guy is up to something. And I really like that it started that way, without anyone saying anything, without anything happening yet, but that something is really up. I just thought that was such a brilliant ending. Another thing that confused me with the deaf boy, I don't know if you've probably seen this more than I have, but in the middle of the film, we see him, Mitchum must have sent him to go see Jane Greer, because then right after that they kill the guy who works with Douglas, with the fish rod and pulling him into the water. Do you have any idea why he even went to Jane, that scene when he went to Jane Greer and they asked him, hey, where's Mitchum? And he's like, oh yeah, he's over there. I mean, were they just setting that guy up because he knew that the woman would send him? I don't know. That I was like, what is going on here?
It's everything that you're talking about, because he's such a neat character when as we see him, like at the beginning to the end of the film, because he is the character that he's the key to pretty much to freedom for Anne's character. He's the one that gives her happiness in the end he lies to her on purpose. And it's nice. I would like to have seen more between him and Mitchum, because there is like such a trust and such an admiration between these two characters.
Yeah,
and
they're like father and son.
Exactly, and it is so it is so well done with so with not a lot of scenes.
Yeah, no, I really like that, and to me that's where the film falls short, because there's so much I admire about it. but it's just because it's so plot heavy with so many twists and turns. But I think we already had so many great relationships in it and so many great themes and you know, the themes that we're talking about in terms of making mistakes, your past comes back to haunt you, facing up to your own morals. But I wonder if they had made it even simpler, if you would have been able to have just spent more time with the people and within their relationships. Is that something you ever thought about? Or
I think, like, for me, this is a near perfect. But I don't think I wanted to see more when it came to certain characters.
Yeah.
But I think that's one of the successes of a script like that, is that you want to know more about these characters. But
right.
this is what you know. This is what you're given, because that means that they've fleshed out the world enough, and they've made these characters interesting or intriguing enough to make you wonder, okay, so why did that happen?
Yeah.
Near the fishing area. Why does he lie to Anne at the end?
Yeah.
And it's a lot of that is there's an ambiguity to it. That
right. I like that too.
Nothing's pat with the film. And that I dig that aspect of it. Yeah. But I agree. I mean, like, there's certain characters there that I definitely would like to have seen more of, too. Like, but that's, again, for me, that's a plus for the film itself. Like, that when I say, like, the past one, like, much like Born to Kill, I saw this one when I was very young, and I would watch it over and over again. And I finally got the Film Noir box set from the one that Warner put out.
Oh yeah,
a few of them. So I remember getting that one, and I'm not sure if Born to Kill and The Past are on the same set or just adjacent sets, but either way, those were the ones that I'd go to all the time.
Yeah.
Like, Gun Crazy was there. That was a fun one too. And now I'd forgotten until I was watching it again, like this week, and I was like, this is against all odds. And I'm like, and then I've forgotten that I knew that it was that they were like, that they belonged together, that they were like remakes. But I utterly love this movie.
Did you think, because you had touched on the ending when he tells Mitchum's girlfriend, he just nods to say, yeah, he was gonna run away with her. Did you think the boy did that because he knew that the woman needed to move on and go with that other guy who really loved her? I mean, that's what I thought. Yeah.
Yeah, and more than likely, Mitchum, that was something that they may have discussed.
Yeah.
Like, I think Mitchum was like he knew, like, in the car, you can tell when he's telling the story and going in the car, he knows that he's not going to be coming back. And I think that this was,
pretty much, sure. Yeah. Yeah, he doesn't even try, he does. He wrestles her with the gun. But, I thought it was also interesting now that we're talking about it. You're right. I mean, it is more of an ambiguous film than I thought. I think perhaps because I've only seen it twice, and the first time I saw it was I believe 8 years ago, because you're just really trying to get your head around the thick plot of it. I wonder with more viewings if you'll enjoy it more when you already just kind of know the connect the dots of the plot, which is always to me less interesting than the actual people and the relationships. But I wonder if the fact that Mitchum didn't want to go to that woman's house, to her front door, and you hear her parents, what kind of a guy doesn't meet you at the front door? I wonder if he just felt he didn't deserve her, or because of his past. Did you ever give any thought to that?
He knew he did. I mean, he knew he was on borrowed time. From the beginning of the film, he knows he's on borrowed time.
Yeah.
So it doesn't make, he can't help himself, but be attracted to Anne, and to want that, and in the deep, recess of his mind, this is what he would love to have. But by the time he has come to this town, he's already gone past the point of no return. So that's the reason, that's the reason you open up the gas station. That's the reason you kind of just do that. That was okay for him. And if he had never met anyone, that would have been fantastic. But he met her, and still, you know, he's still pulling away. He's still like he doesn't want to meet the parents. He doesn't want to do that because he doesn't want to put himself into a point into her life where there's too big of an empty void, not just with her, with her parents, like with their family, because he knows eventually he is not going to be there.
That's a good point. Yeah, I hadn't thought of that till just now. How do you feel about Jane Greer in this film?
Oh, she was great. She was fantastic. Yeah. She was meant to do this. I mean, like Howard Hawks had found Jane Greer, and she had wanted to act. Like he put her on a contract, but I think he was enamored, and she was, well, when you're going to give me a film to do? So Out of the Past comes on, and of course. She would have a great career afterwards. Obviously, Twin Peaks was one of the big shows of all time. She got to be in that show. Right. But I thought she was fantastic. Like, you couldn't have anybody that would have been more perfect for this role. And you think of all the ones that are out there. You think like the Barbara Stanwyck and the Veronica Lakes and the Gloria Grahams and even Claire Trevor. They could all do their own aspect of it, but there's just a certain quality and a coldness that she has that just suits this character. I think she was perfectly cast in this film. I don't think anybody else, and like obviously it took so many years before Rachel Ward would do the role, and again a beautiful Australian actress, and who would take over from Robert Mitchum? Well, Jeff Bridges, who was one of the still one of the more unsung and big actors of that era. So I thought she was fantastic.
Yeah, no, I agree. And she also brought a real innocence to it, because I think as soon as you see her, I don't think the audience is supposed to see anyone who's criminal. You're supposed to just see, and she, I saw her in an interview say that the director said, okay, first half good girl, second half bad girl.
Bad girl, yeah.
And yeah, that really is it, because you can't just see someone bad. And she even has a line that no one is all bad. And really, in a sense, I mean, I think that's true, but she'll do whatever she has to do to survive, like she'll, in terms of going with Mitchum and then having to leave Mitchum and go back with Douglas. Do you think any of her feelings were pure about or genuine towards Mitchum?
I think to an extent. I mean, they were, but for her, we're meant to like slowly unravel when it comes to her character. Like we're not, like you said, we're not meant to know right away. Okay, this is going to be the downfall. Even though if you've seen any film noir, like obviously it's the downfall. But I think that point in the time when they're in the cabin before. There's a realness to it, but in all honesty, it's how was it put in Born to Kill? You were just there's something rotten inside you. There's something broken, wrong. And although we don't see it until later, and in Born to Kill, it is blatantly obvious. She's this. I don't think she's any different than Lawrence Tierney in Born to Kill. I think she is that dark and. That like a lot of it is like you come across it. Well, maybe she's doing this. She's going from person to person to survive. It's almost like you get with a parasite, and go from host to host. And it's a horrible thing to say, but that's the way the character at the end like comes across. Like there's no like point where she's like, okay, let's redeem. No, when the other guy's dead, then she's back to Mitchum again. Mitchum, of course, makes the call. And when she realizes that, what does she do? Is there any time like, is there any redemption arc? No, she shoots him.
Right. Yeah.
So there's a darkness. It's just the film is smart enough to unravel the darkness slowly.
Yeah. Very well said. Very well said. And of course, again, with this, obsession about money is such a noir thing that we see in so many noirs of people doing terrible things for money in order to because they either love it or they need it to survive. And she lies about taking money from Douglas, even though you find out later that she shot him 4 times for it. but you know, what I liked about what Douglas did is he brought this real sense of humor to the part, like a real sort of you feel as though he's up to something even when he's always befriending Mitchum. Like throughout the whole movie, he's acting like Mitchum's such a good friend of his. You know, I just thought, but it's devilish, and he's trying to get Mitchum on his side, even any way he can, and he's charming and devilish. Is that something that popped out to you? Because you had mentioned you felt he was trying to sort of behave in the way Mitchum was.
Well, acting wise, like when,
yeah,
but there's a, you know, the parallels
in the characters, yeah.
But I love him. What's amazing is this is an early Kirk Douglas role.
Yeah, it's like his third, I think.
Yeah, like it's insane that these actors are this good this early in their careers.
Right.
That's one of the things. Like, as you know, as you act, I was someone that was going to go in acting, and that always blows me away. Is that they started at this level, and you don't get to see a lot of people, unfortunately, when you're watching films nowadays, if it's a first performance, not starting at a level or a caliber of this,
or even to really get that opportunity with something that, I mean, this apparently was a big budget. I know a lot of those films, the noirs, were like B films, but this was a big budgeted, you know, film noir. So yeah, you're right. Yeah, I mean, it was a big. I know Mitchum wasn't the first choice, I believe. Do you know much about the trivia?
I don't think it was actually. I don't remember who the first choice was. I remember that there was somebody else initially, but Mitchum really kind of. I think the studio didn't want Mitchum,
right?
But Mitchum really, he was the part. That's the thing. He was perfectly cast, and we perfectly cast in these films from years to you know, like Murder My Sweet, all the stuff they would do later on.
Yeah.
But it would become his thing. This would become Mitchum's calling card. And for Kirk Douglas, he would do, like, obviously would go on to amazing success.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. No, they're very, very different. I mean, Mitchum always brings, often he always brings like he's not someone who, if he's upset, he's gonna really show it. It's always very, very subtle, in a very sort of like I'm too tough to really express myself. So everything is, you still feel whatever he's expressing, but it's so small, it's so subtle, which is hard to do. I mean, some people think it's harder to really respond, and it is, but it's, in my opinion, it's even harder to do that in a very small way. But I think that's naturally him. I mean, you watch him in interviews, that's him. I mean, he's just the real deal.
Well, he has that charisma to him, like Mitchum's always had that. But the thing that people, and it always bugged me, was that people would say Mitchum's always just playing Mitchum. Yeah. And which is definitely not true. Like like his character aspects come through. That's like Bogart. Well, I guess Bogart is always playing like Bogart. But no, like this, like just me and you talking right here, right now. Like when people watch this, like they, you know, and people see us, they okay, well, these are two people we know from there, but no, they know this 2D perception of us, much in the same way on a screen, you know, the 2D perception of like, of the characters Mitchum's playing. And Mitchum's played one of the greatest villains of all time in Night of the Hunter, which is so brilliant, and probably one of my favorite movies of all time. It just it is a perfect film, Charles Laughton's only directorial film.
Yeah.
But there's just, yeah, and you're right, there's a subtlety, there's a special subtlety that he does. And it takes, sometimes, I think it takes an actor or somebody that watches a lot of films to pick up on some of the subtleties of his acting. And this is your profession, this is what you do. So you can see it more so than, like, say, if I walked in and just watched it for the first time. And I just seen like like 3 or 4 Mitchum films, like Shadow of the Cat or something like that. I'm like, oh yeah, Mitchum, he kind of has this persona. And I think a lot of times back then they would kind of play them into a persona as well. They had these certain roles to go towards. But often nowadays you'll see people like, no, this person is stretching, and I'm like, I kind of like what you were doing before. Okay.
There's a great story of Mitchum. I don't know if you've heard of this, but someone at a bar was picking on him to say, oh, you're not really that tough. And he apparently didn't even talk to the guy, didn't answer, kept drinking. The guy, as the guy got closer, he just took his head and smashed it on the bar, and just smashed it right on the bar, and it just went right back to drinking. It was like, it's just like he didn't say a word, you know, no fighting, no yelling, just, as you said, just knew he had been there before and he knew what he could do. You know, it's the guy, and that reminds me of the character in this film, you know, out of the past, who's been there and is always a step ahead of everyone else. You know, it's like Kirk Douglas says to him, he's honest and he's smart. You know, he's not just honest, he's not just smart, he's both. And that's what makes him, you know, such a good detective, who really made a couple of bad mistakes, you know, but that's all it takes to end your life or bring your life to end.
Well, that's it.
You know?
There's two forks in a road, like, you know, Robert Frost there. Sometimes a fork in the road is just a fork in the road, but sometimes it's fate. And in this case, it's fate. Like, he could have done, like, I guess, quote unquote, the right thing, but to him, it wouldn't be the right thing, because he's bringing this girl back to somebody that he's not quite sure that he can trust to not do something bad to her. So he has to take
that's right
this aspect onto him, like, not just the fact that, like, there's a part, you know, he loves her, but there's also what you call I guess a Superman complex, which some people have, and it's basically a savior type thing, where you want to, you have to save, like, you see somebody and you have to, and so you fall into these relationships that you shouldn't, because you're like, okay, this person needs help, and helping them and then loving them becomes like becomes one,
right,
intermingled. I'm getting really psychological here.
No, but you're right, and in this case, like a double-edged sword, right? Because because he loved her, then he wanted to save her, but then those two things are what brings him down. But yeah, it's certainly, you know, a film for anyone who hasn't seen it that is well worth it. I'm still skeptical whether I'd put it on a top 5, but I think it's not fair for me to say until I really can see it again in closer times, when I sort of, because, as I said, because it's so plot driven, I think once you kind of let go of that and just, you know, anything that may be confusing or whatever, and just take it in much more about the characters, and I think I'll see more, but clearly a lot of people feel that way, because, you know, everywhere you go, this is like top 3. It's rarely out of the top 3, right? So wonderful film. I don't know if it's on any streaming services. I don't believe it is. I don't know if you know any major streaming services that have this.
I think you can buy it to stream, like
on YouTube,
like for like $10. If you want to see the remake, that's a bit more expensive, because I did look into it, and then I realized I had it downstairs, so that was okay.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah, I'll have to see the remake, because I didn't even know that. Very cool. Any last thoughts on this film that you wanted to mention?
I think overall, like, this is a movie again that I recommend. It's more than a one-watch movie, because it is, one of the flaws of this film is that, and I don't know, we'll definitely call it a flaw first, is that there's a lot of plot within this film. And when you first watch that, you can get, like, think for like the first time that you watch, like, you've never watched a foreign film before, and it's your first time watching a foreign film, and you're focusing on those subtitles because you want to know what's going on, and eventually, you know, that's par for the course, and you kind of just like sink it in. And then the subtitles, you know, you want subtitles. It doesn't bother you. You're getting
right. That's a good point. Yeah.
So with this film here, I think, like, the first time you watch it, like, enjoy it for what it is, but go back to it. Like, like within a week or a year, just go back to it and just look at the different, like, concepts and the way the choices that they made, like the choices that Jacques Tourneur made when he's directing it, or the choices that the cinematographer made, because there are some beautiful shots in this movie. But overall, just look at the performances of the leads, in such an early point in their career and have such depth and have such like unique characters that you can actually kind of just really just get invested in. You're invested in Robert Mitchum. You're invested in Jane Greer. We get to see her change. We get to see a really like drastic change in Jane Greer's character when we eventually realize that like Kirk Douglas is not the bad guy. Like he's not the good guy, but Jane Greer is the bad guy. She's the one. Mm-hmm. And it is so good to see that to see something like that, and especially just to follow. If you're an actor or you're somebody that likes writing, this is definitely the film for you. Like study these performances. This is a masterclass, and especially with Greer and Mitchum as well. But you gotta be cool. You gotta get that coolness down.
Very great. No, that's a great pitch. Very, very well said. Well, I'm glad we could do Out of the Past so soon after doing Born to Kill, as you know, because these two film noirs are certainly worth reviewing and talking about and revisiting. So yeah, Aaron, thanks again so much. Let's do it again soon. For sure.
It's my pleasure.
All right, great. And for those of you watching, thank you so much. And if you haven't already done so, please consider subscribing to my channel. It's absolutely free by clicking the Robert Bellissimo logo that you will see floating above my head right here to your top left. Just click on that and then click the bell in order to get a notification every time I release a new video or when I go live. Thanks so much, folks. I'll see you soon.